Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about getting pulled over by the police. Probably not during your training for your driver's license, but after you get your license, it's likely inevitable that there's going to be a time that you're going to have your attention wane. You are actually going to be speeding intentionally, or you are going to have an action contrary to a sign, and you are going to be pulled over by police. Now, when I say action contrary to a sign, no left turns at intersections between 8 and 10 a.m. in the morning to move and facilitate traffic flow through that intersection, and you make a left-hand turn and get pulled over by police. What do you do? How do you keep yourself safe, particularly in the United States of America? There are certain protocols that you need to have in place with the police officer. First and foremost, do not deny what you did. Simply answer the officer's questions, and in 8 out of 10 cases, you might get away with a warning. At least that has been my experience when being pulled over, and I have been pulled over in my time that I've been driving. So we can give you some skills, some techniques, some strategies that are going to keep you safe when you're driving, if in fact you do get pulled over by police. So quite a number of people here tonight. Evan's DIY is here, and yes, you can't pull into the intersection for left-hand turns, and best defensive posturing as well is not to pull into intersections for left-hand turns. Corey will put up the video for you on left-hand turns. Bricks for Wheels is Corey. Corey is the moderator, does an excellent job of keeping out the bad people, those that like to spam you and whatnot, as well getting up the videos that I suggest you have a look at for further details on questions that you ask. Marion is here. Marion just recently got her license. 4 seasons in Vancouver, BC. Yes, indeed. Has been that way here in the Okanagan Valley as well, in British Columbia's interior. Elevator fan tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. And B, thank you for the comment. And my friend Tim here, Drive Smart BC. If you're in the province of British Columbia and want to know anything about traffic safety, policing, court decisions, road maintenance, excuse me, check out Drive Smart BC. Excellent information over there, as well as a forum where you can participate and ask questions with other traffic safety professionals, police officers, and those types of things. And Tim himself is a retired RCMP officer, so check that out over there. Sean tuning in from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Retired tuning in from North Carolina. Hello, hello. And lots of people here. Vanilla, you're still working on getting a license, and thank you for your compliments on helping you out. And yes, I did get your email. Now, one of the things that might help you out with 3-point turns is keep in mind that it's on a narrow road, and simply what you're doing is turning around to go in the other direction. That's all you're doing. And the roadway that you're on is too narrow to do a U-turn. So instead of doing a U-turn in one fluid motion, you're simply taking 3 turns. So you're going across the road, backing up, and then going in the other direction. That's why it's called a 3-point turn. I can also send you the one working with cones, and that might clarify what you're trying to do there in the state of Maryland. So know that. And Corey's put up the video for you on left-hand turns. Thank you for that. Ray's here. Going for you. It's going well on this gorgeous day for sure. Sports Talk. Passed my knowledge test recently. I took your advice of choosing the best answer, not the right one. Awesome. Congratulations. And yes, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Pertains to both driving and to multiple choice tests. All right. Multiple choice tests. Pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And the example that I used for that, 4-way stop sign intersections, which seems to be difficult to determine right of way for new drivers, which is the best, which is the right answer that you're going to pick for the test, or the best answer rather. Vehicle on the right, vehicle in the intersection, first vehicle to arrive, or the largest vehicle. So the largest vehicle, obviously not. Is it a vehicle on the right? Is it the first vehicle to arrive, or the vehicle in the intersection? The best answer is the vehicle in the intersection. The other 2 answers are right too, but the best answer is the vehicle in the intersection. That's the example that I use. So know that when you're taking multiple choice tests. As well, when you're studying for your learners, another tip on that, Corey will put up the playlist on learner's license and skills and strategies you can employ to pass your learner's license. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought here. Yes, Do not read the driver's handbook from cover to cover. They're boring. And they're written by bureaucrats. So if you want to cure insomnia, sure, grab one and, read the whole thing. But go online, start finding practice driving test questions, and do those. Figure out where the gaps in your knowledge, and then go back to the driver's handbook, look up the sections that you're missing that you need more information on, and then go back and do the practice driving test questions. And when you're getting 80 to 90% consistently, that's when you're ready to go down to the DMV and do your learner's permit test. Corey's put up the link there. Thank you for that. Elevator fan, pedestrians always have the right of way. Yes, they do. Some people may think that they don't, especially if they're crossing at the light and whatnot. However, sometimes it's just a matter of letting off the throttle or slowing down and stopping and those types of things. So, yes, give way to vulnerable road users. And Mallory is here. I forgot to mention Mallory. I'm sorry about that, Mallory. Tuning in from the Maritimes. Mallory is one of the long-standing smart drivers here on the channel. So, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Discovered that only in the CRV Honda. Sorry, Marion, you said something else about your Honda. Was it about the cruise control? Was that what you're talking about, Marion? I did read your other comment about that. Thank you. All right, so we're talking about police tonight. Police are nice people for the most part. Yes, there are some who are grumpy, just like driving examiners. They can have their bad days just like everybody else. And remember, they're working a lot of nights. They can be tired. You did something wrong or negligent that endangered other people. It's the same thing when we chastise our children. Sometimes when we're chastising our children, we come across too strong. But really what we're trying to do is keep them safe. And yes, we are upset about what they've done, their action, because it endangers them as a human being. And police are oftentimes doing the same thing. They're chewing you out because you did something dangerous that not only risks your life, but risks other people's lives. But I would say for the most part, in my personal experience of being pulled over by police in different states in the US and in Canada, that for the most part they have been professional and cordial, and on I can't even say any occasion were they belligerent and did I feel that I was being unfairly treated. I always felt that I was being treated professionally and being treated, in many cases with courtesy. And I can talk about some of those stories of being pulled over by police as well. Elevator, can you get pulled over for leaving the scene of an accident? Yes, you can, elevator fan, especially if you are one of the people who is involved in the crash. You must stay according to the laws or report the crash. Now, saying that, many states, many provinces now, you do not call police if there's less than $5,000 worth of damage. Now, you need to check that number in your driver's handbook. $5,000 worth of damage and there's no injuries or fatalities. Most of the time that is kind of the benchmark for calling police. There's more than $5,000 worth of damage, there's injuries or there's fatalities in the car crash. If not, British Columbia states have crash reporting sites. So you just take the information from the other participants, the other person that you hit or they hit you, and you go to the accident reporting site and you report it to ICBC, and they will take all of the information that you will present to your insurance company. So know that, okay? H99, you passed your road test. Apologies, I did see your comment just before we get started there. Congratulations on passing your driver's test. Awesome, thank you for your kind words. And as well, as I ask everybody, what did you do to celebrate passing your driver's test, my friend? Because that is just absolutely awesome. My friend Klaus is here. It's 3 o'clock in the morning in Germany there, and he's tuning in as well. Klaus is one of the smart drivers that tunes in regularly here. And Tim says there is no requirement to report any crash in BC to police. That's interesting, Tim. Even if there's injuries or fatalities, it still doesn't have to be reported to police. There's no legal requirement for that. That seems very odd because I know in the handbook it says injuries, fatalities, and over $5,000 worth of damages. It has to be reported that police have to be called. I want to double check that now that you're saying that there's no requirement. Marion says only the CRV have the adaptive cruise control. You asked me the other day if mine is an HRV, so it doesn't have adaptive cruise control. It's, as I said, Marion, adaptive cruise control, regular cruise control. It's one half dozen the other, right? Whatever is whatever you get used to. I can use either because I've driven vehicles with both of them. We had adaptive cruise control on the vehicle we rented in Spain like almost a year ago now, which is crazy to think it was almost a year ago. So, okay, here we go. Questions about figuring out who is at fault. Vanilla, that is up to the insurance companies and police and other investigative bodies after the crash, after the fact. That's not something you're going to determine at the time. All right, so we'll get over to the presentation here and get going on that. And the presentation here, pulled over by police, this is based mostly on the United States. It is, very little of it is to do with police in Canada. However, policing in Canada is a little bit different. We have sheriffs in Canada, but for the most part, sheriffs in Canada deal with transporting prisoners and other people who are going to trial at courts. So they're remanded in custody. But in the United States, sheriffs are something different. Okay, so pulled over by police. We're talking about that tonight. Yeah. For those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver during the 1990s, hauling freight between Canada and the United States, mostly east of the Mississippi. I did make it out to the western states a couple of times, but mostly east of the Mississippi. Drove into New York City for 6 months. And in 1997, in a bid to stop driving over-the-road trucking, I became a licensed commercial driving instructor. Most of my career as a driving instructor has been with tractor trailers, air brakes, buses, logbooks, those types of things. And my expertise is really in air brakes, and I wrote an ebook called Air Brakes Explained Simply, trying to bring it up to modern days terminology and helping people to understand air brakes better, because unfortunately, the 40-year-old course that is being taught in most provinces and states is in fact 40 years old. We're still teaching manual slack adjusters and manual front wheel limiting valves, and none of that stuff has been on any of the trucks for decades. So unfortunately, it's the course is antiquated. 2006, I graduated from the University of Melbourne with my doctorate in legal history, which is a study of policing, courts, and prisons. And my expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. And I looked at how laws and policing at the beginning of the 20th century moved to influence motorist behavior. So how we influence driver behavior and what forces them or what motivates them to do certain actions when they're driving. While I was going to university in Australia, I drove buses for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there, so I have bus experience as well. And this is a picture of me in 2002, April 2002, when I still had hair. And 2015, I started the online business based around the YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel, the online business, has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. All right, good luck stuff to be looking at here as well. If you're not tuning into this live stream or you're watching on the replay, check out the podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website and check out the short video, which will give you additional information to the presentation tonight. Have a look at that as well. Both of those links are down in the description. All right, so there's different levels of policing. There's city police, sheriff departments, state troopers, which are hired by the state, Capitol Police in the capitals of Washington, D.C. there in the U.S., and then there's federal police, which is the FBI. The federal police do not do a lot of traffic policing. Unless you're doing something really dangerous, you're not probably going to be pulled over by the federal police in the United States of America. Now, there's a great deal of information about who has authority, who can pull you over, questioning of the police in the United States and whatnot. And I did put up a video on emergency vehicles, and one of the police departments that I put up was the railway police here in Canada. We have them here in Western Canada, and a lot of people were saying, oh, that person has no authority. What kind of emergency vehicle is that? And police and whatnot. So there's different levels of policing. and different municipalities that hire these organizations. All right, so origins of traffic laws. Where do traffic laws come from? These are put forward by either politicians in Congress. They're debated, put out to the public for public input, lobby groups and those types of things. Laws are passed in Congress and they're passed through the Senate, and then they're given presidential assent. And the way that it works here in Canada, it is similar to that, except given presidential assent, believe it or not, because we're a constitutional monarchy. We're still ruled by the King, King Charles. It has to be given royal assent here in Canada. So traffic laws are state laws, and they are passed under state jurisdiction, and they are enforced by the police. It's the same thing in Canada. They are provincial laws. You are not charged under the criminal code or the federal laws unless it is drink driving or it is negligent driving causing death. Then it's going to be a federal law and you're going to be charged under the criminal code. But for the most part, most traffic laws, traffic violations, speeding, actions contrary to a sign, those are all going to be traffic laws. So power versus authority, and this is one of the things that is questioned of police. You don't have the right to pull me over. You don't have the right to give me a ticket, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And people are questioning police's authority and their power. And power, if we want to have a discussion, an academic discussion about power versus authority, power is unsanctioned abuse. So if I pulled you over, forced you off the side of the road in the buggy, which is kind of funny, and I started beating your windshield with a stick, that would be considered power. That is unsanctioned abuse. I have absolutely no authority. However, authority is based on the Constitution. It is necessary for public safety and public order. So the police powers are based in legislation, they're based in laws, and they are under the Constitution of the United States of America and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada. And authority is based on government and public opinion, and it is written law as legislation, and it is necessary for public safety and public order to keep us safe, because if we all drove crazy, we wouldn't be able to drive safely without getting into trouble. Tim says dangerous driving while prohibited are also criminal code offenses. Okay, thank you for that, Tim, for helping me out with those. The thin blue line. Police deal with the not so nice element of society, and one of the thinking and idea is that they provide the thin blue line between society and the criminal element, or they are the shock absorbers, the buffers between the criminal element and society. When unfortunately the reality is that most of what police deal with is order maintenance work, and that order maintenance work, a great deal of it, is to do with traffic. Public opinions of policing, which are obviously skewed by television and Hollywood films and those types of things, that in fact police do deal with the criminal element. They do a little bit, but for the most part, traffic violations are order maintenance works, and police cultures, because of the element of society with which they deal, tend to be conservative, and they tend to stick out and associate amongst themselves. Okay, it is a dangerous job pulling people over on the side of the road at any time of the day. Cameras have created accountability on the police part of the police. When you're being pulled over, where are you? Are you in the good or the shady part of town? What kind of car are you doing? And many would level the accusation that this is what is called profiling, and in some cases the profiling can be dangerous because it borders on all kinds of it can potentially lead to forms of abuse, which we talked about previously, and forms of abuse, racism, socioeconomic status, those types of things, and as well, what state are you in when the officer approaches the vehicle. So, for example, in many of the larger cities in the United States, they have gangs, and the gangs are driving particular cars and wearing particular colors and those types of things. And if they're pulled over by a police officer, there is a high chance of violence, gun violence, and whatnot. So police are asking all of these questions to keep themselves safe when they're pulling somebody over at 8 o'clock at night, or a better example would be 11 o'clock at night. They pulled out of the pub, they're driving erratically, and the police officer pulls them over because they think that they're driving drunk. So this profiling does go on, but it is a dangerous job that police are doing. All right, procedures when you are pulled over. Stop as soon as you can, do so safely. If you can't get off the road entirely, find another place to pull over, okay? Activate your four-way flashers, drive slowly to a place where you can pull over. If you can pull off the side of the road, pull over to the side of the road as far as you can. The police are oftentimes going to block traffic behind you with their lights and sirens to prevent getting rear-ended. When you stop on the side of the road, do not get out of the vehicle. Do not reach for your license or faucet for anything else in the vehicle. Simply wait for the officer to approach your vehicle. Keep your hands on the steering wheel so that the officer can see your hands. And if it's dark, turn on the interior light so that they can see you inside the vehicle. All right. First and foremost, do not deny what you did. If you know you were speeding and the officer pulls you over, it's like, oh, officer, I wasn't speeding, blah, blah, blah. Why are you pulling me over? All right. Don't question the officer's authority. And it's exactly what Tim said earlier there, that what goes around comes around. And if you're belligerent and you start being angry and opposing the police officer, the officer, believe me, is going to probably throw the book at you and write you a ticket. All right. If you have a weapon in the vehicle and you have a carry permit, tell the officer where the weapon is located in the vehicle. Tell them that you have a carry permit. Would you like me to get the permit for you? It is in the glove box. State all of that before you do any actions with the police officer, okay? Follow the police officer's instructions. And again, if you're angry and you're belligerent, the police officer is going to be angry and belligerent. He or she is definitely going to write you a ticket. All right, move over laws. I just want to talk about this. This isn't so much about you being pulled over, but other people being pulled over on the side of the road. And this just isn't police officers, but ambulance, search and rescue, fire trucks. You have to pull over into the other lane on a multi-lane road, pull over to move into the left lane as well, slow down to 40 miles an hour or 60 kilometers an hour, and do so safely. And if you don't do this on a driver's test, it will be an automatic fail. Recourse, your rights. As I said, the side of the road is not the place to have an argument with the police officer about whether you were in fact speeding or not speeding. This is what the courts are for. This is the place that you can plead your case, and the judge in a traffic court will decide whether you pass or whether you are guilty or not guilty of your ticket. So in some states, in the state of California, in other states, you have to take a defensive driving course if you are found guilty of an offense for a traffic violation. So you have 3 decisions when you get the ticket. You can plead guilty and pay the fine outright. There was 3 decisions. Now the other decision is that you can go to traffic court. You can plead not guilty and go to traffic court, and you can plead your case. Now I think there's a third choice on there. Tim, maybe you know what that is. I can't remember what it was. There was something about it's been a long time since I had a traffic ticket, so I don't remember what the third choice is. All right, so good luck in your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And it's also a great time to ask questions about policing and what happens and what's going to happen if you get a speeding ticket and whatnot, because Tim is here, and as I said, Tim is a retired police officer, and he has a great deal of experience with this sort of thing and getting pulled over and whatnot. So definitely ask questions, and Tim will be able to help you out with that as well. One of the things that Tim did mention, I've talked about this, I've presented this topic before, pulling into business parking lots and those types of things. I have seen people do that. Tim said to me that if you do that and pull into a business parking lot, that oftentimes the patrons, not the patrons, but the people that own the businesses will get upset with having police officers in their parking lot, and that is not the best place to go. The best place to go, Tim said, is to turn onto a minor road and go down about a half a block, and that way it's safer to keep you safe. Tim says some states let you go to traffic school, yes, which is basically defensive driving, and allow you to not have it go on your driving record, because you do. All of us have a driving record, and you'll get points, and the points are recorded. It's recorded on your driving record, and then the insurance sees it, and then sometimes in some states and some places, provinces and whatnot, your insurance will go up with the number of traffic tickets that you get and whatnot. Now, the best, the one jurisdiction that I'm most familiar with is the province of Ontario. In the province of Ontario, you get 15 points, and every driving infraction is assigned a number of points. So, for example, failing to stop for a school bus is 6 points on your license. Speeding can be anywhere from 3 to 4 points depending on how fast you're traveling when you get pulled over and get a speeding ticket. And in the province of Ontario, once you get to 10, 12 points, then you have to go into the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario, and you have to explain to the authorities there why you should keep your license. Because once you start getting up at the 11, 12 points, then you no longer have the privilege of having your license, and they will take your license away from you. Now, excessive speeding, racing, I think it's 40 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit. So, for example, in an 80 kilometer an hour zone, if you are caught doing 120 kilometers an hour, they will automatically impound your car, and you will be walking home. So, know that there is stunt racing, stunt driving, excessive speeding, and those types of things as well, where you will get a speeding ticket and police will automatically impound your vehicle and you won't get it back for a month. So there's those really high-end excessive charges where you are doing something completely negligent and you are going to lose your car. Marion, this may be a stupid question, but why don't you reach for your license when stopped by police? The reason why you don't, Marion, is because the police officer might be thinking that you're reaching for a weapon, you're reaching to get rid of a case of beer in the car, you're doing just about anything that could be construed as an illegal activity in the vehicle. And police want to keep themselves safe, and if you're moving around in the vehicle and looking for your license and those types of things, it makes them incredibly uneasy and unsafe, and you don't want the police officer to feel unsafe when they're approaching your vehicle. So it's best just wait in the vehicle with your hands on the wheel, and then wait until the officer approaches. They'll ask you some questions, and after the officer says, "Do you have your license and registration?" "Yes, it's in the glove box. I'm going to reach for it." Okay. Tim, it probably doesn't matter where you store your documents. Just let the officer know before you reach for them. Excellent. And Edith, it's 40 plus and it's stunt driving in Ontario. Thank you for that information. And so yeah, and it's obviously a lot different, the police culture here in Canada, than it is in the United States. But for those of you, particularly Canadians, who are traveling into the United States, know that these policies and these procedures for pulling over and keeping both yourself and the officer safe are much, much more important. Okay? In the United States, simply keep your hands on the steering wheel and wait for the officer to approach, and then follow the officer's instructions. And before you do anything, communicate to the officer what you are going to do. And trust me, I just came back from the United States in January. I was down there doing some driver training. I learned more about guns and personal carry and concealed carry than I ever knew about firearms. And one of the gentlemen who is actually a good friend of mine, he's a driving instructor in Maryland, he was carrying a concealed weapon when we went out for dinner, and all legal, has a concealed carry permit. So if all the people the Americans who are here on the channel, and you have a weapon, you have a concealed carry, that's one of the first things that you want to tell the police officer when you get pulled over. Hands on the steering wheel. I have a concealed carry. I am armed. I'm carrying a firearm. It's located inside of my jacket. My concealed carry permit is in the glove box with my license and my insurance. Would you like me to reach for it? All right. Tim says, keep your documents with you rather than leaving them in the vehicle. Thieves can produce them then. Can't produce them then. Yes, and this is one of the pieces of information that's going along with ICBC and other driving authorities and those types of things. If you leave your car parked for a period of time, your documents are in it, and thieves break into your car, they now know where you live, and they also know that you're not at home because your vehicle is somewhere else. So sometimes it's best to keep your documents on your person rather than in your vehicle. Vanilla, was he in Eastern Maryland? Yeah, we were in Delaware. So we were having dinner there. And one of the other gentlemen that was on the course, he was from South Carolina, and he had a carry permit as well. So, lots of information and lots of knowledge about firearms there. Was your friend in Eastern Maryland? And then to be more politically conservative, yes, I suspect he was a Republican, I'm certain. Yes, so we'll just leave it there. Elevator fan, I haven't been pulled over by police yet. Just a matter of time, my friend. It'll happen if you drive long enough. Vanilla, is it good to have the license registration in the mirror part of your car rather than the glove box? It is easier to get. There is some documents and other things that you can do with your registration. I know that there are... there was some years ago, I was approached by a brand that was making a holder that would put it right there next to your steering wheel on the left, and you could put your documents in, your registration, license, and insurance right there. And then that way you didn't have to reach for it. You could just say to the officer, it's right there, and the officer could reach in the window and they could pull it out. So that's another possibility in terms of documents and whatnot. There you go. So Tim, the other thing, it doesn't give the bad guys your home address and whatnot too. So yes, that's another reason not to keep your documents in the vehicle. Young Poe, Maryland has good seafood. Yes, they do. We had some really good food there in Maryland for sure. Edith, I've caught myself going over 40 without noticing. If you are on a deserted road, it's hard to perceive your speed. What I do use cruise control to avoid speeding, but to save lives. Yes, and that's the other piece. We've had conversations about that. If you're prone to having a lead foot, as many of us are, we get going and we get going really fast, use cruise control because cruise control will prevent you from speeding. Tim, have a great dinner, my friend. Have a great night, and thank you for your help with this topic. Always a pleasure, my friend. Elevator fan, is it illegal to change lanes in an intersection? Elevator fan, it may not be illegal. It may not or may be illegal. I don't know. I would have to look up the legislation in every state. However, changing lanes in an intersection is not your best defensive posturing. It is dangerous because now you're conducting two maneuvers. Moving through an intersection is one maneuver. Changing lanes is another maneuver. And it is not something that you should be doing at the same time moving through an intersection. And actually, I worked on a case as an analysis expert a couple years back. Transit driver went through the intersection, was changing lanes at the same time into the bicycle lane because that's where the bus stop was on the other side of the intersection, and struck a cyclist because failed to check the blind area before changing lanes in an intersection. The other piece about changing lanes in intersection, this is an excellent point, is that intersections in cities particularly is where you are most likely to encounter vulnerable road users. Cyclists, kids on skaters, skaters and scooters, motorcycles, pedestrians, those vulnerable road users, which make up 25% of traffic fatalities, those are the people that you are most likely to encounter at intersections. So, one thing, mapping and tracking road users at the intersection, moving through in a straight line or turning right or left. Do not change lanes in an intersection unless it is absolutely necessary. For example, it's blocked up on the other side of the intersection because there was a crash or an incident or something else, and you have to change lanes to move safely out of the intersection. Klaus, I wasn't pulled over since I got my driver's license. Awesome, and that is great, my friend, that you've kept yourself safe. Awesome. Vanilla MD has implemented speed guns in Annapolis. Speed guns. So are you talking about speed cameras? Is that what you're talking about, Vanilla? Just let me know there. All right. So police. So just to reiterate, if you are pulled over by police, pull over in a safe location. Okay. If you cannot get off the side of the road safely, activate your four-way flashers, which indicates to the police officer behind you that you have in fact seen him or her and you are aware that they're pulling you over. Drive to a place where you can pull off safely. So if you're on a highway and there's an exit a short way up the road, pull up to the exit. If you're in town, pull up to a minor road and then turn right on that minor road and pull down about a half a block, and that way you can keep yourself safe and keep the police officers safe as well. The cop can now track drivers' speed with the speed gun. Speed gun. So speed, yes. They can do that just about anywhere. They have that ability just about anywhere. The other piece with police powers that have recently increased across Canada, I'm not sure whether this is the same in the United States, but we used to have stickers on our license plates, valid tags, they used to call them. Now we don't have those tags anymore, and the reason we don't have those tags anymore is because police have the technology for license plate readers, and they will read the license plates in your vehicle without your knowledge. And there's a certain amount of information that comes up with your license plate, whether you have driving infractions, outstanding parking tickets, those types of things. So if this isn't something that is coming in the United States, something that they already have rather in the United States, this is something that is definitely coming, and it is something that is now here in Canada with license plate readers, that the police have access to a certain amount of information about your vehicle at a glance. Corey, in most provinces, there's no law specifically against changing lanes in an intersection, but you could still be charged for an unsafe action or negligent driving if you cause a crash or harm to another person. So it's not something, as Corey said, and thank you for looking that up for me, Corey. As I said, it's not your best defensive posturing. It's the same thing with left-hand turns, and I talk about this all the time about people who have had a go at me pulling deep into the intersection on a left-hand turn. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, there's no law against it, but it's not your best defensive posturing. Your best defensive posturing is to wait with your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line. When the gap presents itself, then drive straight into the intersection to have some speed when you can, and reduce the amount of time that you're in the intersection making your left-hand turn. Mr. Question Mark, I got my license watching you, and thank you so much. That's really awesome, my friend. Thanks for coming back and letting us know that you were successful in passing your driver's test and that we could help you out, because it's just really awesome that people help out. And last week, Brian, I believe it was, sent me an email saying he passed his driver's test there in North Haven, Connecticut. I don't think it's Brian. I apologize for the wrong name. Anyway, it's just a really awesome email. Filled my bucket. I don't know whether you've heard that or not, but it's a kid's story about filling their buckets with nice things that they say to other people. And it's one of the reasons why I do this. It just never gets old when students come back and say they passed their driver's test first time. It's just a great sentiment. They're so excited, and it's just, and make sure that you celebrate when you get your first license, because it never happens again, right? I have had dozens of driver's tests after my first license, and it's just never the same. Brian, that was me. See, Brian's on the live stream. There we go. So, Brian, I remembered your name. Thank you again for the email. It just, like I said, just filled my bucket, and just absolutely awesome. Congratulations on getting your license. And he ordered his favorite Chinese food, as he had watched the videos because he knew I was going to ask him what he did to celebrate. And just on that note of celebrating, we need to celebrate our milestones in life. And I know for a lot of people who get their driver's license, oh yeah, whatever, I drove myself to work or whatnot. No, stop and acknowledge the things that you did in life, because otherwise you just become sad and miserable and you're sitting home bitching on social media. Don't do that. Take the time out, celebrate what you've done. And we have our times in life where life isn't going the way that we think it is, but it always turns around. It always gets better. It's kind of like when I went down and did the driver training in January. It didn't kind of go the way that I wanted it to, and I was kind of depressed a little bit for a couple of months. And Tracy said to me, oh, there'll be another opportunity. There'll be another something else to do on this, right? And sure enough, another opportunity presented itself, and I, outside of the YouTube channel, excuse me, outside of the YouTube channel right now, I am like crazy busy. I have some really big projects that I'm working on here right now. So thank you again, and thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Question Mark. Love the stickers there, and congratulations to everybody. And, you know, Marion as well got her driver's license just in the past couple of months here and has been asking questions and getting more information about being a smart driver and her car, her HRV, and has been learning how to use cruise control and going on trips and those types of things. You know, absolutely terrific stuff, and this is what keeps me going and fills my bucket. Elevator fan, if there is no gap when you are turning left, start moving into the intersection when the light turns yellow. Absolutely. Driving straight forward, double, triple checking that the oncoming traffic is in fact coming to a stop before turning left. Klaus, in January 2022, a guy in the state of Baden, a guy blew up a speeding camera with dynamite. No one was injured. We're happy about that. And yes, here's another aspect of policing, and thank you for that, Klaus. Speed cameras. Speed cameras are the bane of Australian existence. They are everywhere in the country of Australia, and in New South Wales, Northern Territories, in Victoria. People hate them, and the criticism leveled at speed cameras is that they are not about safety. They are simply about filling government coffers, and there is evidence to support that claim. One of the books, I can't remember the name of it, but I just read it recently here a little while back. Had a whole chapter on speed cameras and putting evidence forward to show that these are placed in high violation areas where people tend to speed, intersections where people tend to run red lights and those types of things. And my experience 2 years ago when I drove across Canada to Ontario, I got one in Saskatchewan, one of the prairie provinces here in Canada, and they simply sent me the fine. It was $170, and they said, if you pay this, there won't be any infractions on your tickets. It won't be recorded. It won't go into insurance and those types of things. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay your $175. So if there's no other consequences other than a monetary fine, is it really about safety? I don't know. That's questionable. Thank you. It is because of you that we all have passed our tests. So thank you. Thank you, Marion, for those kind words. Awesome. Elevator fan, can you get a ticket for causing a crash? Yes, you can. If it is deemed that you are at fault, you can, in fact, get a ticket. All right. Unknown, when approaching a stop sign and you see the car across that wants to turn left that also has a stop sign, but there's oncoming traffic, you both have to watch out for who goes first. Yes, at two-way stop sign intersections. However, at two-way stop sign intersections and four-way stop sign intersections, it's straight through traffic over turning traffic. So the straight through traffic is going to go first. Now, that's unless, of course, you're at a four-way stop sign intersection and the person that's turning left got there before you and it's their turn before you. So four-way stop sign intersections, which are common here in Canada and in North America, the United States and Canada, they're a little bit more challenging. So if you're having difficulty with those, oftentimes what I suggest is that you just go down to the intersection, stand there for 10 or 15 minutes. You will figure out the traffic pattern, okay? And that will help you out. Mallory, in Charlottetown on University Avenue, you don't walk across the crosswalk, you run across the crosswalk. Oh, that sounds somewhat dangerous. Chapo, can you talk more about going to get reinstatement? Okay, so Chapo, reinstatement, are you talking about getting your license back or going to traffic court? Is that what you're talking about? So, Tungal, I have my road test tomorrow. I watched all your videos and applied them while practicing. Awesome, and good luck on your driver's test tomorrow. You're going to do awesome. Remember to breathe. That's going to cause your body to relax. So in through the nose. Hold for 3, and then out through your mouth, okay? So that's what you're going to do to cause your body to relax. As well, when you get to the test center, get there about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before your scheduled test. Go in and check in. I don't know where you're taking your test, but some places will have an office that you're going to go in and check in. Others, you just pull up along the curb. So if you're in New York City or one of the other metropolitan cities, you just pull up along the curb and wait for the examiner to come out. But if there's a center, there'll be reserved parking for people who are testing, and then you back into the space, go in, check in. If there's facilities, go to the toilet, come back out. walk around a little bit. Don't go too far because the examiner is coming out looking for you. And then they're going to do a mini pre-trip on your vehicle. So make sure that you do that before you show up. Whether the lights work, seat belts work on the passenger side, documents are in the vehicle, whatnot. Corey will put up the link for you for the checklist of all of that information. And then, so I said to back in, and then when you leave, make sure that you signal going out of the parking space. That'll get you going there. And other thing, now that I was talking about driver's tests, driving test secrets has finally made it back from the graphic designer, and it is now with the proofreaders. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that driving test secrets will be available by the end of May. Fingers crossed. That's what I'm hoping, is that driving test secrets is available by the end of May for all of you getting your driver's license and those types of things. Talking about that, pass your driver's test first time course package, guaranteed to pass your driver's license first time, over at the Smart Drive Test website. $38 on sale, down from $60 US, and as well to keep you safe after you get your license, both the defensive and winter driving smart courses are included as a bonus. So pass your driver's test first time course package, available over at the Smart Drive Test website. And as soon as driving test secrets come out, that will be part of that package, and we'll run a special, and that will be included so that you can pick that up with the driving test secret handbook, or the book, which is an ebook. It's actually a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but it's got a glossary. It's got some sections. It's really designed for you to kind of move around and pick the sections that you want. Older drivers, parts of the cars that you should know, a bit of defensive driving, talking about social driving, automatic fails on a driver's test, mistakes, common mistakes, unexpected events on driver's tests. So it has just packed with really great stuff to help you to learn to drive and pass your driver's test first time. Mallory says, when stopped for construction, just be patient. Yes, and don't charge flaggers. Don't swear at flaggers and those types of things. Remember that in construction zones, flaggers have the same authority as a police officer. So know that for driving. And as well, just patience. It's summertime. Construction season is upon us, and it's going to happen. There are many, many websites out there. You can check construction, you can check for delays and those types of things, and make sure that you do that, because here in British Columbia, they have been doing construction on east of Golden, and they have had road closures where there's been a detour, and the detour has been like an hour and a half to go around the construction. So know that if you're planning a longer trip and whatnot, make sure you check out where the construction zones and whatnot are. Reese, if you get pulled over by the police and an officer does something that violates your rights in a traffic stop, what should you do? Reese, there isn't anything that you can do at that junction. You will get a ticket. The ticket will have the officer's badge number on it. After you get the ticket, after you move away, continue to be nice. Okay? Then you can follow protocol by getting in touch with the police department. You can explain what happened. You can contact city council, because the police department works for city council. You can talk to members of the city council or the state. If it is the state troopers, then it's going to be the governor or somebody there, who you're going to have to figure out who it is. And you can also get in touch with the courts, but they have a hierarchy of systems, and there will be complaints and those types of things. But it's going to be, if you don't have some sort of video or recording device, it's going to be difficult to prove that they violated your rights. And sometimes you might have to get a lawyer involved as well to be able to do that. But as I said in the introduction, most police officers are going to be professional. Most of them are going to be cordial. They are not going to violate your rights. I mean, especially in this day and age, with the amount of, public attention that is on police departments, it would just be really crazy for somebody to do that. I really recommend recording the introduction if you feel they violated their rights. They'll review the footage in the court of law. I'm going to tell you right now that if you get pulled over by police and you pull out a camera and you start recording the police officer, it is not going to go well for you, because the police officer will do everything in his or her power to be absolutely professional. They're not going to do anything wrong, and they're going to issue you a ticket to the maximum degree of the law. All right? Try and put yourself in the police officer's position for a minute. All of a sudden, you pull somebody over for speeding or doing something else that's a traffic violation, and you come up to the window and you're standing there, and the person brings out their phone and starts recording. What do you think that police officer is going to do? What would you do as a police officer if somebody started doing that? If somebody started doing that to me and I was a police officer, it'd be like, okay, you want to be belligerent? You want to be a pain in my butt? You want to make my night just really difficult? Fine. I'm going to write you a ticket for every violation that I can find, and then you can sort it out after the fact. Whereas, if you just answer the officer's questions, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, you hand for the thing, I can promise you, I can tell you right now that 8 out of 10 times that I've been pulled over, I have not received a traffic ticket. I have gotten a warning. All right? So know that, okay? Be nice, because what goes around comes around. I'll tell you a perfect example of this. One night I went to martial arts. It was a new club. I went there. I'm all ramped up. I'm all, adrenaline's flowing. I get back in the car, and I'm in Kelowna, and I'm going across the bridge, and I'm at the front of the pack. And the speed limit is 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour on the bridge. And I'm tearing across the bridge. I must have been doing 100K. It's like I'm out in front of the pack, and away I went. Of course, there's a police officer, pulls me over. So I pull over on the off ramp on the other side of the bridge, and sitting there waiting and talking to the police officer. And I was courteous, I was pleasant. I said, hey, I just got back from martial arts. We were sparring, and I'm all ramped up, blah blah blah. Took my license, went back to the car, came back. He said to me, the speed limit shouldn't be 60 kilometers an hour on the bridge. It should be should be 80, blah blah blah. Slow down, have a good night. Got off with a warning. And if you are pleasant and answer the officer's questions and are cordial, I can promise you, I can guarantee you that 8 out of 10 times you are not going to get a speeding ticket. You are not going to get a traffic violation. And I can tell you, years ago when I was driving truck, I was not a good truck driver. And you got paid by the mile, right? If the wheels ain't turning, you ain't earning. And the faster you could get there, the more money that you made. And I was pushing the envelope all the time. And I got pulled over in Arkansas one night. And I was 3 in a pack. I was the last guy in the pack, and I got pulled over. And I said to the police officer, I said, you didn't pull those other guys over. I got a speeding ticket because I was, you didn't pull those other guys over. Well, I basically admitted that I was speeding, right? So I got a speeding ticket. Corey, now I will do everything by the book now. The officer's thinking probably. Yes, exactly. That's what the officer's thinking. Klaus says some construction zones on German autobahns take 2 years. Poe, well, it's well within your limits to record police interactions, but yeah, there is an emotion and reactional aspect because officers are people too. Yes, indeed. And again, I agree with what you're saying, that it is within your legal right to record the interaction. However, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And you're going to get it put to you. They're going to everything by the book. Okay. You were speeding. You were 5 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit. Blah, blah, blah. You were wandering in your lane. That's an unsafe action. You didn't pull over when I said right away. You were evading police. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, they're going to throw the book at you. Yes, you do have that right. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. Reese, I feel it just depends on officer mood and behavior mentally. For example, the one in Memphis months ago. Yes, but Reese, those don't happen very often. In most interactions, it's simply not going to happen, okay? And if it does happen or they do violate your rights, unfortunately, it's just a thing about life, right? If you have a good attitude about life, and you can focus on the 80 or 90% of life that is good and right, then you're going to be okay. It's the same thing. You know, people talk about violence in the United States and not feeling safe and not going there and those types of things. I have been in and out of the United States most of my life, and I have only on one or two occasions not felt safe in the United States of America. And some of my best friends live in the United States. I've gone to school with them. I've worked with them. They are great people, and I don't feel that most of them are dangerous. Okay, and even though that that they have a firearms culture, it's very different. But it's gonna happen. But it's probably not going to ever happen to you in your lifetime. Okay, I'm not saying at one and the same time that you shouldn't be aware, that you shouldn't be on yellow alert. Yes, you should be, because that's one of the things that we teach in martial arts. And most of you know I train in jiu-jitsu, and I trained in karate for years and years and years before I started doing jiu-jitsu. And as well, it's the unaware who usually get abused and get attacked. And you can watch these attack videos on Twitter and on Facebook and those types of things. It's usually the people who are walking down the street and they're like looking at their phone and they're not paying attention. Those are the ones that unfortunately, are ones that attack with random acts of violence, because bullies and other people who are prone to aggression and violence attack people that they can beat. And somebody who's like looking down or walking down and shuffling their feet and not looking, those are usually the victims. Those are the people that fall prey to these people who are criminals and bullies and those types of things. But if you got your head up and you're on a swivel and you're looking around and those types of things, and you're aware of what's going on in your environment, for example, you're not driving on the wrong side of town, or you're walking down the sidewalk and you see a group of guys coming at you and you're like, I don't know about that, and you cross the street and nothing happens, it's over. Yes, you have to be aware, but most of the time, as I said, 99.9% of the time, police are going to be professional. Police are going to treat you well. And if you're nice to them and you answer the questions and cordial and agreeable, 8 times out of 10, you are not going to get a ticket. Okay? Klaus, when I was driving back from Christmas market on 14th of December last year, there was a stationary alcohol control on the in Roseheim. I said I drink nothing. The officer, yes, and roadside checks for alcohol as well. Okay, don't drink and drive. Unfortunately, a lot of people still do drink and drive, particularly in places outside of metropolitan areas. Still very well and live, right? Unfortunately. So they believed you and drove off. And yes, they're going to know whether you're drinking or driving, right? So there are those police checks as well. If you leave the pub at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's a police check down the road, they're probably going to check to see whether you have been drinking and, give you a breathalyzer and those types of things. So, excellent live stream tonight. Excellent engagement. Thank you for your great questions about policing. Again, to reiterate, what goes around comes around. Stop in a safe place. Don't reach for anything. If it's nighttime, turn on the interior light in the vehicle. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Don't reach for anything. If the officer comes to the door, the window, don't be distracted by the fact that they're going to stand behind the jamb. They're not going to come right up to the window. They're going to stand crossways. It's a safety feature. Answer the questions. If they ask you for your license registration, tell them where it is in the vehicle. Say it's in the glove box. I'm going to reach for it. If you have a firearm in the vehicle, tell them that you have a firearm. Tell them where your concealed carry permit is. Give them the information that they need to keep yourself safe and to keep themselves safe. Because remember, they deal with bad people all the time. That's their job. That's what we pay them to do. They're trying to keep themselves safe and go home to their families at the end of the day. That's all they're trying to do. Implement those policies, implement those strategies, and that will keep you safe. Check out past your first-time course package over at the Smart Drive Test website. On sale for $38 US, down from $60. Guaranteed to pass your driver's test first time. As well, we throw in both the winter and defensive driving smart courses to keep you safe after you get your license. Marion, we have a thing called Brewers Row here in Port Moody, and they catch everyone coming out of the pubs. And yes, they do. That's what police do. They're not crazy. And as well, most of the people coming out of the pubs, they're repeat offenders over and over again. Okay, that's why they do that. So, if you passed your license in the last couple of weeks, congratulations on that. Thank you, everybody, for coming back and telling me that you passed your license. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And yes, it is puppy time. Striker, he's like passed out. Just hang on one sec. Striker. I got caught on my microphone, which is like here, and it's holding me down. Here we go. He's not so much of a puppy anymore. He big. Hello. Look. All your adoring fans. What's the matter? Did I wake you up? There we go. No? Can you see? Oh, snort, snort. Yeah, he's getting big. So he was here all day with Izzy, who's another Frenchie, who's his buddy, and the two of them out in the backyard playing all the time. So he's a bit done. So he will always be a puppy. Yes, he will, Marion. He's definitely my puppy for sure. So, all right. So if you passed your driver's test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations on that. And if you have a test coming up in the next week or two, good luck on that. And bye from Striker. Say bye. Have a good week, everybody. All the very best. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.